The City of London is not the same as Greater London. It is a 1 square mile area in the centre of the capital, often called the Square Mile. It is the historic and financial core of the British Empire. Home to the Bank of England and the London Stock Exchange and Lloyd's of London, the world's oldest financial institutions. It is run by the City Corporation, who governs the area like a private business. It has its own Lord Mayor, its own police, its own laws. It operates independently of Parliament. The King is not allowed into the city without permission, but the city has direct influence over British law, over state decisions and foreign policy. The corporation is made up of livery companies, ancient merchant guilds, who have historically controlled finance, shipping, insurance, gold, textiles, you name it. These are not elected bodies. This is an unelected club of rich men, and they formed the backbone of mercantile capitalism in Britain. The conquest of Ireland was initiated under Henry VIII in 1540, but dismantling the Gaelic clans turns out to be harder than they thought. By 1609, King James is broke, and the Crown is struggling to pay for the conquering of Ireland. They are in debt. The government cannot afford large-scale settlements on its own, so the King looks to the wealthiest financial body in England, the City. The City says yes, but only on their terms. They would fund the colonisation of Ulster, but they wanted direct control. They wanted to own land. They wanted to control trade routes. They wanted to build infrastructure and profit from the rents, the ports, the urban centres. To them, it's not conquest, it's investment. To these London elites, this is not seen as brutal. To them, this is civilizing. This is modern and efficient and profitable. The Irish are described in official British paperwork as barbarians. Their land is called waste. This language makes theft feel like order. It turns violence into development. The plantation of Derry is pitched as a civilizing project. We will build them roads and markets and churches. In truth, it is a massive land grab. Derry is strategically chosen because it's on a river and it is a deep sea port, a naval gateway to the Atlantic. This holds enormous military value. These are key imperial trade routes and resources. The land is seized from Gaelic clans and handed over to the worshipful companies of the City of London. The mercers, the drapers, the goldsmiths, the skinners. These aren't just trade guilds. Many senior members of these guilds are also Freemasons, part of this growing elite network that fuses banking, geometry, and religious supremacy into a system of control. The Honourable Irish Society is set up to govern this project. They do not report to Westminster. They report to the Lord Mayor of the City of London Corporation. In 1613, the City of London is granted ownership of Derry, and they rename it Londonderry. This is a first in history. A financial corporation from one city taking direct ownership and control of a colonial city outside national borders. It wasn't the Crown or Parliament who owned Londonderry. It was private wealth. The land is carved up between 12 livery companies, many of which are embedded in early banking systems, Freemasonry, and profiting from the infrastructure of Protestant imperialism. It becomes a test bed for settler colonialism. It is a ritual and strategic extension of the City of London's power, a test bed for the model that would later become the East India Trading Company. Freemason lodges emerge in the 1600s. They are networks of power, merchants, architects, lawyers, aristocrats that share this belief system, geometry as order, Myth as legitimacy, architecture as control. The guilds and lodges are the carriers for this ideology, the instruments through which this worldview becomes colonial infrastructure. So when these livery companies take over Derry, they don't just build big walls, they build a ritual city shaped by Masonic thinking, funded by financial power, and enforced through settler supremacy. The city is designed with Masonic geometry, a ritual city, a colonial altar. The city is built in an enclosed circle with 4 cardinal gates, a common Masonic layout. Circular cities are supposed to symbolize perfection, unity, control. These are ideas rooted in Hermetic and Masonic symbolism. The bastions placed along the walls reflect ritual number usage. There's 7. 7 equals completion, divine order. The streets are laid out in a rational Roman-style grid. Central crossroads that intersect around St. Columb's Church. Hallmark Masons. You see this in Washington, D.C., in New Delhi, in New York. There are 4 main gates: Ship Key, Ferry Key, Bishop, Butcher, each named for either religious authority, trade, or control. Masonic architecture uses thresholds to mark initiatory control. You enter through the gates and submit. St. Columb's Cathedral is the first church to be built after the Protestant Reformation, and it is positioned as a symbolic crown atop the city. The Masons will often place a temple at the highest visible point to represent enlightenment and power. The act of renaming the city is also a ritual, a declaration of legal and spiritual dominance. Masonic practice puts a lot of weight on oath and words and language. The City of London's crests still sit above the city gates. This is heraldic sigil magic. It is them still claiming ownership centuries later. This is propaganda in stone. It is the blueprint for British imperial cities across the world.